Welds in aluminium can fatigue and fail over time. That's why our panniers are riveted, like aircraft. Metal Mule. Engineered to be different.
We are now halfway through our second season of Adventure Bike TV, and there's been one particular guest that we've been dying to have on the show ever since we started. He's been on our TV screens more times than I can possibly remember. He's sometimes been a controversial character in the world of adventure motorcycling, and this is his first full interview since he changed from BMW to Triumph. It's Charley Boorman.
Yes, that's me. He's interested. Hello.
How you doing? We got it right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you invited us here to talk to you at the Bike Shed Motorcycle Club.
Yeah.
Why did you choose this particular location?
Well, this location is actually something very close to my heart because for the last sort of 12 years, I've been trying to sort of get a restaurant, cafe, apparel shop kind of going, and you know, I was massively influenced by Deus Ex Machina, which Dare Jennings started in Australia, and in his kind of take between sort of motorcycles, surfing, and all things nice have sort of inspired me, but it really started from when Ewan and I were on Long Way Round, and we ended up in a place called Tinder, and which is sort of in the middle of nowhere on the far east side of Russia, and we actually went through Tinder, camped on the other side of the town, the small town, and then something broke on Ewan's bike on the subframe in the back, because we were carrying too much stuff.
Was that when you had to fix it with the spanners and the?
No, that was another time. But no, that was another time. That was in Mongolia when we did that. But so we'd gone back and to this place called Tinder, found this garage, and then in this while we're sitting there sort of waiting for it to be fixed, Ewan went off and there was a little cafe attached to it. So we went in just to get some coffees and a bit of lunch. And Ewan came back and said, "Oh, I think we'd better come back here tonight." And he goes, "But don't go in, because I want it to be a surprise." So we found a little place to stay, and then went back that night. And it turned out to be this groovy cafe with these motorbikes on old Urals and stuff on the walls, and it turned out to be this incredible nightclub at night. So cafe by day, club by night, and we ended up spending 2 nights there, and then so 12 years later, I've finally managed to.
It's only taken 12 years.
It's only taken 12 years, and so we started this place. So there's a barber here. It's a proper restaurant. It's got this apparel place with some really lovely groovy kind of stuff. We're right in the middle of Shoreditch.
And how are you actually involved in it?
We got involved with a guy called Dutch who started these amazing bike exhibitions called the Bike Shed, and down in Tobacco Dock, just here in London, and they were really cool, and I worked with a guy called I've been trying to get it going with a guy called Nicholas Cowell, and then Nicholas rang me up and said, "Charlie, come and have a look at this thing called the Bike Shed, and this guy Dutch, and he's doing exactly what we want. If we could convince him to do it as a permanent thing, I think we're onto something." And so that's kind of how it started. And so we found these premises, and we have sort of 10,000 square feet, 4 arches, and 2 arches are for to rent out for parties and photo shoots and whatever goes on. And then the restaurant, and then the sort of hang-out place where we are now.
Yeah, I've got to say, it's an amazing venue. It's what a place to meet. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
No, we really love it. We're right in our infancy at the moment. We've only been open, just a handful of weeks. So we're really just finding our feet. But it's all going really, really well.
Well, we'll definitely be back here. We'll come back and talk about more of kind of what's going on with your life now in a moment. But we had so many questions from the viewers for Adventure Bike TV that we put out on Twitter and Facebook. And in fact, the majority of them actually kind of relate to kind of what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. First question was actually by a gentleman called Ewan MacGregor. So funny, we had somebody who was very, very close name to your mate.
Yeah.
But his question was, what is it about riding and adventure travel that most motivates you and gives you joy?
I think, wow. It's just like, well, I don't know. I don't know, just wanted to do it, which is probably the basic answer, really. No, I think I grew up, my father's a film director, and he directed films like Deliverance and Excalibur and Hope and Glory and a lot of really big movies, and very proudly he's one of the sort of top British film directors, and it's quite funny because people come up to me and they say, you know, your father changed the course of movie making, and I'm going, what, Dad? Really? And but we were, as kids, we had 4 children, and as kids we were always chucked into his movies, and because he said, why pay for children when I've got 4 free ones?
Yes, yeah, I remember seeing you in Emerald Forest, wasn't it? Yes, yeah.
And so we kind of did that, and then he kind of dragged us all around the world as he was making movies from the South Pacific to South America to Los Angeles, the deep South Carolina and all those kind of places, and so we always travelled, and then I started making movies and doing films more and more, and that's where I met Ewan on a film set, and I suppose I got my kind of adventurous feel from my father. You know, motorbikes weren't really part of my father's side of the family or my mother's side of the family, really. And so I'm not sure where the love of motorbikes came from, but it's as long as I can remember, it was always there. And I started riding motorbikes when I was about 6 or 7 from a guy called Tommy Watchford in Ireland, where I grew up in the countryside. He had a Mako 400. Which was the dog's bollocks in those days, and I convinced him to give me a go, and I did that, and then you know, Ewan and I moved to London and kind of rode motorbikes in London, and then Ewan and I met on a movie set, and then we ran a motorbike race team together with Matt Llewellyn and David Jeffries, and we did the British Superstock with when the R1s first came out, and we had some success with that, and David Jeffries and Matt Llewellyn came first and second in the championship and stuff like that. So we did that, and then we went on track days together endlessly, and then I suppose we started doing little weekends away, and just were thinking, you know, wouldn't it be nice to do something a bit longer? And that's kind of how it sort of came along, really. And I suppose in the short of it is, I think my dad instilled that kind of adventure into me, and his movies were always incredibly difficult films to make, and in very extreme environments, and sort of as kids we kind of grew up there.
Yeah. Which kind of leads me into the next question, which is very specifically about the first TV series, and this was the question on Facebook that got the most response and the most debate going.
Yeah.
I suppose in some respects it's one of the most controversial questions. I'll read you the question first, and then there's a comment afterwards as well. So this was from Dave Robinson, and his words were, "By no means trying to undermine all you achieved a long way round, but with hindsight, do you feel a bit of a fraud having all that backup?" Let me just come back to that in a second. Then there was people supporting you, and there was some people not supporting you, and even Dave came back and admitted to a clumsy use of the word fraud. But there was one question which then I thought actually really neatly summed up the debate of all the people who got involved in that on Facebook. This was from Craig Niven, and he said, "Does it annoy you when adventure authors or video makers bag you out like you aren't a real adventure rider, when you have without doubt put food on their table?" So I think it's actually that's a cracking question.
Listen, I mean, I think that there's always that, you know. You always have the purists who want to build a motorcycle, build their own panniers, do their own thing. They go off for 6 or 10 months and they do their trip. But you know, the reality of it is that you know, not everybody has that time. you know, I do motorcycle tours now, and you know, we organise it for them. We have a mechanic, and we have a paramedic, and we carry their bags for them. But you know, they're busy people. They're lucky to get 2 weeks off of the year. And so, you know, if you're going to have 2 weeks off of the year, you can't go and build your own bike and spend 6 months. You just can't do it. And so some people want a little bit of an adventure, and that's fine. And I don't distinguish between someone who goes off for 2 years and does it by themselves, or someone who goes off for 2 days and has their adventure. To me, I think it's all the same. And if you've got your mate or your wife or somebody following you in a vehicle, well, who cares, you know? And it's about you're still on the bike, you're still out there having your adventure, you know, and that's what it's all about.
I think as well that there is a difference, having had some experience myself of making TV documentaries, although not nearly at the scale of what you guys did. But you were making a TV documentary of your adventure, and that's different. And that's different with insurance. It's different with the people you need to get you through those things quickly, so you can carry on going.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that, you know, Ewan and I, when we did Long Way Round, we didn't really, you know, we decided we wanted to do a trip, and it ended up that we thought we would film it and make a TV show out of it. And we came from a background of not ever really have ever gone on an adventure like that before, and so we were just doing what we did, and you know, it was you and Claudia and myself, and we had Russ and Dave in some support vehicles, and they kind of loosely followed us from behind, and Claudia did all the filming and stuff, and that's just how we did it, and we certainly didn't expect it to be, and we thought we'd just have a nice kind of DVD of the trip, and you know, we wanted people to see it, but it doesn't matter what you do if nobody wants to watch it, nobody's going to watch it, and so we certainly didn't expect it to turn out, and you know, the adventure world is a very small world, and hopefully we've brought that adventure world. Helped in making it a more visible one.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue with that.
And so I think that if anybody's out there thinking about doing an adventure and is worried that they should be going off and doing it by themselves or on their own or riding for 1,000 miles a day, well, don't even think about that. Just think about what you want to do, and if you want to do it with an organized group, or you want to do it with a couple of mates, or you want to just do it for a week, or you want to go off for 6 months, then there's no wrong way of doing it, and I think it's a shame that if people want to sort of criticize, well, that's okay. You can't please everybody, and someone's always going to have an opinion about something, and so you know, my view is more as just, you know, go out and do it rather than and however you do it is good.
And actually, we were looking at some bikes around the Motorcycle Club earlier, and there was a 125 scrambler bike. We were looking at that and saying, well, actually, if you wanted to go away and do an adventure and you were just starting, you had the confidence to ride a 125, what a perfect bike to do it on.
Yeah, I mean, there are some friends of the Bike Shed, Down and Out, custom motorcycle guys. They're an amazing bunch of guys. They do loads of stuff with Triumph, and you know, they have lots of different pieces, but they've just started building a little 125, a little Bullet 125. And they've got little panniers on the back. They've customized it a little bit and just made it look kind of a little cute, and that's good. I mean, I know people who have gone on a little postie bike in Australia and have ridden home, and by themselves. And there's two girls who got on these little pink Vespas and rode home, and then I just met this lovely father and son who. The father was quite ill for a while, and it wasn't looking brilliant, and he managed to pull through, and he promised his son that if he pulled through, he would take his son out and they would have an adventure together. His son's 19, and the two of them went off on these bikes, and his wife and daughter came in a support vehicle behind them, and the whole family went off and had this 3-month adventure. So how cool is that? Oh, they went down through Morocco and then down sort of that way. But what a wonderful way of doing it, you know. And is that not an adventure, or is that wrong to have support? And you know, the other thing as well is that when you're in the middle of Mongolia and stuff like that, and people always say, oh yeah, but you had helicopters and all this kind of stuff, and new bikes flown in. I mean, you know, of all people, that, I mean, you know, you're sitting in the middle of Mongolia. I mean, the closest, at one stage, we were in a place where the closest hospital was 5 days ride. There was no air or helicopter support if you crashed or had a serious injury. There's nothing there, and then there is, and anybody who's been to Mongolia will know that there aren't really any roads. So it's you're just out there.
Yeah, and you try to rely on your friends on their bikes to help you if things go wrong.
And you've got to change your. I remember when I got into Mongolia and it started to get, you know, that was the first place where it really was remote. I mean, really remote, you know. And I remember one day waking up and thinking, actually, you know what, I've got to change my riding. And it was much more about, you know, thinking, okay, you know, no more wheelies, no more, you know, the consequences here are dramatic if something goes wrong. And so you do sort of, at some stage you think, shit, okay, I've got to sort myself out.
Yeah. In fact, the next question was, where's it gone? Next question. I can't find the guy's name, but the question was, with 2020 hindsight, where do you think the biggest risk was that you ever took?
Walking out my door of the house. No, I think, you know, I don't think, you know, risks are there's always a danger of in anything that anyone does, and I don't really think that I think we underestimated Mongolia. I think that we didn't realize how difficult it was going to be, and I think if you ask a lot of people who travel through Mongolia, they'll say the same thing, that it was much more complicated than we thought. I think I never really thought too much about the risk. I mean, we always talked about what would happen, and you know, I remember I took a paramedic course before going, and just so that I could that if ewan or someone fell off, at least I kind of knew what because I didn't have a clue as to what to do. And I think anybody who goes on an adventure should. And it's actually quite interesting. It's quite fun to do one of these paramedic courses. I don't know if you've done one, but it's kind of interesting to do.
So I haven't, and with hindsight, yes.
Well,
yeah.
And I think, but I think the reason you do it is because there is risk, and so that's why you do it. You want element of risk and stuff, and that's why. Going through Mongolia and Siberia and all those places, and you know, there was a guy who sadly died. He had a website called Millennium Ride, and his name escapes me now. And it was really because of him. I think the ewan stumbled across his website, and he'd just done the Road of Bones, and he was the one who said, look, if you do the Road of Bones, you've got to find a truck to get you over some of the rivers, because you're just not gonna make it, and clearly you're just not going to make it. You know, I remember the first bridge we came up to, which was a photo that he had taken on his website of this crashed down, fallen bridge in this huge river, and we just sat there going, ooh, you know, okay. And then we found these crazy guys on these trucks to help us, but you know, but that's the fun of it. That was the thing, you know, coming to another river and thinking, how are we going to get across this? And you know, we were digging ramps to get into the river, to be able to, and then we'd have to go across on the truck and then build another ramp to get out of the river. I mean, and that's the stuff of dreams, you know.
So, but yeah, by the time you got there, so you were halfway or 2/3 of the way through that trip. The adrenaline, and I think back to when I went around the Meds, and I was talking to you earlier about I was shitting myself the whole way around because I was so nervous about where we were going, navigating, because it was all on me, because it was yeah, and be responsible for one other person who was just there to take part. So yeah, the people, borders, yeah, just been so unknown. When I did it down through West Africa, I just enjoyed it because I was more used to it.
Yeah.
When people were walking up to you with guns, I was sort of mentally prepared for that. So by the time you'd got to the Road of Bones, were you more mentally prepared for that type of thing, and you were just actually enjoying the challenge and all the new stuff?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we were. I think like all these things, you know, when you go on an adventure and you say I'm going off to this place or that place, and you know, people always say, "Oh, that's a dodgy place," and you go, "Is it really?" And they go, "Oh yeah, it's really dangerous." Have you been there? No. And you know, if you believed everything the media said, you wouldn't go anywhere. You know, and the one thing I've learned over the years is that you know, 99% of places that you go are pretty safe, and people are just people, and everybody wants the same thing, and you know, want their kids to go to school, they want a job, they want food on the table, they you know, they want to go down to the pub and have a beer, they, you know, all those kind of things, and it's funny, you know, the other thing I noticed as well is that, you know, the less people have, the more people are willing to help. And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that like in Mongolia, you know, if you stopped and you're broken down, the first vehicle that comes along, and they don't come along very often, I can tell you, you know, they'll stop and they'll all pile out, and they it was amazing. They all just attack the Claudia had the little Red Devil, this little bike was just kept breaking down, and they would just all attack it and things, and then fix it, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, because it's the way they have to work amongst themselves to survive out there.
You have to survive. You know, you have to stop to help that person, because, you know, it has huge consequences. You know, and then you don't want to be stuck without anybody stopping for you. So I think the more you travel, and the more you places you go, and the more places you see, I think the easier it becomes, and the more relaxed you become about being in those countries, and the more you realize how those countries kind of work, and you know, I do with Billy Ward, I do a bunch of motorcycle tours through Africa, and we're doing one in South America this year, and you know, we always, with a bunch of guys who come with us, we always stop in a township, a shanty town, and from the outside they look really ominous and scary and depressing and stuff like that. And so we go in, and there's this lovely lady who takes us through, and then you suddenly realize that there's a library, there's a hospital, there's school, there's shops, there's people living life, and there's a structure there, you know, and then people come out and go, oh, actually, I didn't realize, I just thought they were just, you know, just wastelands or something. And so, and I think each time you do something like that, as you say, it gets easier and easier, and you become to enjoy it more and more, and you become more and more relaxed about it. And I think now, through experience, you know, I can drop into places now and maybe assimilate a little easier, you know.
Talking a bit more now about now and the future, we had a question from Simon Tring. Having had an attempt at the Dakar, would you ever consider trying it again? I know you said at the end of the TV series, I'll never do it again, but would you ever consider doing it again?
I would. Yeah, no, the Dakar Rally was, and that was something, you know, I mean, I think Long Way Round, you know, really did change my life a lot. You know, I was struggling, and, you know, I spent 10 years painting, decorating, and doing people's houses up, and building, and kitchens and bathrooms and stuff like that. And, you know, it was hard work, and with the occasional film in between. That's how I met Ewan, and so things weren't really going my way, you know. And then because of Ewan, you know, and his, you know, as to where his position was as an actor, we were able to pull together this Long Way Round, and because of Long Way Round, I was able to do the Dakar Rally, and then we did Long Way Down, and then By Any Means and Extreme Frontiers, and, you know, I mean, God, it's really changed, you know, and But yeah, the Dakar Rally was something I'd always wanted to do. In Britain, it's not particularly known that well, really. But in Ireland, where I grew up, in France and Italy and Spain and Japan and Australia and around the world, I mean, it's huge. And
would you ever go again if the opportunity came up?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think certainly the way I ride now, and my experience, I'd be much more comfortable about going again. I think, the first time, the thing is that we were talking about before about how when you say I'm going to go to Africa or I'm going to go to Papua New Guinea or I'm going somewhere, people go, that's a dangerous place. And more often than not, it's not. But the problem is when you talk about the Dakar Rally to people and they tell you stories, all those stories are true. And so you get these horror stories that you hear about people crashing and huge, and you think, that's just bullshit. But they're not. They're all true. I mean, I remember when I did the Dakar Rally, I broke my hands on day 5, and I was running all right. I was running around the mid 80s out of 260 bikes, and I was doing okay, and I was comfortable. And then I just went down into this old riverbed and lost the front wheel, and I just refueled, so I was heavy. And they were big old bikes, and we were running the 650s then. They were all 450s now. And I tried to push the bike off me, and I kept feeling this crunching in my hand, and I didn't have the energy to I couldn't get the bike off, and I was on a dip in the riverbed, old riverbed, and that was the racing line, and I just thought, yeah, I'm going to die here, because it was 2 in the afternoon, so the fast cars and trucks start passing you in the mid-afternoon, and the next vehicle that's going to come up, I'm just going to get crushed. They'll never see me.
So you were pushing the bike out and you felt crunching in your hand?
Crunching in my hand. It was like a crisp packet. When you crunch it up, they sounded just like that. And I thought, and I was panicking to get the bike. And luckily, the next bike that came up was Matt, my teammate, and he saw me and he parked the bike across the top to stop anybody coming down. He ran down, and just as he ran down, this great truck came past further down and crashed into the riverbed and came out again and covered us in dust. And I was just thinking, thank you, Matt. I could have, if he was a girl, I'd have jumped on him. But and he helped me get back on the bike, and so I got pulled back on the bike, and I'm going, oh, Matt, my hand really hurts. And he's going, shout, get on the bike, get on the bike. And I could sort of hold on, and I kind of got back on, and I rode out of the riverbed and carried on riding, thinking, God, that really hurts. And then I looked down at my other hand, and my thumb was pointing in the wrong direction, and it was all floppy. And I was going, oh, that's the second hand. Oh God. And I was thinking, and then I really started to panic, because I was thinking, oh well, this really isn't good. And I'd made a TV deal and a book deal and all this kind of stuff, and I was thinking, oh my God, it's only day 5, and they're gonna want the money back, and we've spent it, Oh God. And then I remember Russ, and the back of my mind, something popped into my head about, if we make it past to the end of day 5, the insurance kicks in, and then we don't have to give the money back. And so I was thinking, oh, okay. So I could sort of go on, and I wasn't sure if they were broken or anything. So, and I didn't want to stop, and then realize they were just badly sprained or something. And so I thought the best thing to do would get to the end of the day, and they've got 56 doctors and nurses. They've got everybody there. And I thought I'll go and see them, and they could give me a magic injection or something. But and anyway, I went there, and I remember I saw the doctor, French guy, and he said, Charley, he says, you've broken both your hands. And by that stage, they were like 2 balloons by that stage. I mean, they were enormous. And I hadn't taken my gloves off, because I thought I'll never get them back on. And
Did they have to cut the gloves off?
They cut the gloves off, yeah. And they wanted to cut my jacket off, but I said, no, I'll take this off, thank you very much. And he says, no, you're out. And it was just, I just looked at it and I just burst into tears. And it was like the whole year and a half of everything, and I'd rung my wife and said, look, I'm out. And the first thing she said was, thank for that, at least I can sleep tonight. And there's suddenly this whole overwhelming feeling of, of what I'd put everybody through, you know, and the worry and then he says, Charley, he says, you have two broken hands. He said, you're definitely out of the Dakar. He said, I'm not even sure if you're going to be able to wipe your own ass. He was wrong. I could get a baby wipe around this finger and I could just about reach. So that was kind of cool. But I learned a lot on that, and I learned a lot about that. It's not just about being, you know, involving in something and finishing it. You know, the hardest thing for the Dakar was to get to the start line. Was the hardest thing. You know, all the training and you know, getting the money to get the bikes and to you know, it was a huge amount of work and then, you know, someone said, I did some hostile environmental training once because when we made a TV show with the BBC, you have to do that if you're going to odd places. And this ex-SAS guy was telling me, he said, look, Charley, if you can survive the prep, then the adventure's easy. And in a way, in a kind of way, he's right.
Yeah. I remember talking to Lel Pavey before he did the Dakar last year with his dad.
I mean, what an achievement! You know, son and father trip. And Lel, you know, I've known Lel since he was tiny, and you know, we used to go out riding together. You know, all his life I've been riding with Lel, and just watched him get better and better and better.
But when he was telling us about, I've ridden a bit of off-road, and I'm an entirely enthusiastic but total amateur, but I really enjoy it. And I've ridden maybe 100 kilometres off-road in a day, and I'm exhausted. You know, for whatever that was, 4 hours or something, standing up on easy fire roads, and maybe a bit bumpy. And then he was saying, no, our longest day was something like 600 kilometres off-road. Well, maybe it was longer than that. And I was, all that time, not just standing up, but standing up at speed,
flat out,
huge concentration,
and navigating. I mean, the big thing is navigating. And people say, yeah, but there's 260 bikes, and don't you just follow each other? And the thing is that you do follow other tracks, and you do, you know, and if you look in the distance, you can sometimes see dust trails, or you can see a helicopter or something like that. And so you use that to say, yeah, I'm probably in the right direction. But because you get spread out and you're all roughly going the same speed, you can often spend the whole day almost not really seeing that many people, and you if you're lucky, you may pass a few people or whatever. So you have to be on it with the and the navigation and
navigating for a road book is not easy.
No, because you have a tripometer on your bike which tells you your mileage. Then you have a tripometer which you have to match to your road book. So in one box you have at kilometer 226, and then in the next box it'll say, you know, dried up riverbed, treble danger, and then on exit of riverbed, compass bearing 155, or something like that, and that's it. You know, and you can't, you know, there's no GPS. I mean, you have a GPS, but all that's doing is tracking you and making sure you're hitting your waypoints and not cheating, and that's it. And so to go flat out reading your road book, and each time you change your front wheel, the mileometer runs at a different speed, so you're always recalculating on your road book to match. I mean, it's just, and I'm totally dyslexic, so I had to write a big R on this hand and an L on this hand. So when it says turn left, I'm going, well, which hand is that? Oh, and I can't read properly, so I was reading everything wrong. Oh, it was a nightmare. But anyway, but short of it is, I'd do it again.
Okay, right. So coming up to date now. Okay, coming up to date now. BMW to Triumph.
Yeah.
Why?
I think I've been with BMW for, I think, almost 11, 12 years now, and we've had the most amazing journey together, and it's just been incredible, really, and I've watched all the bikes evolve and their whole fleet change, and everyone there are just awesome people, and they got involved in all the shows we've done and everything like that, but I think as you go along in life, you need to change things, and you need to experiment with different things, and one of the reasons is doing this bike shed, this cafe and the cafe races, and I love all the building bikes, and I've got a couple of cafe races myself. I did the Dirt Quake thing with Cyber magazine and that whole kind of sort of thing, and I love all that, and the Triumph have been courting me for a number of years, and they've just changed their whole fleet of their Bonneville range and their adventure bike, and they're really going places, and I just like the way they're going, and I like the fact that they're British. I love that whole thing that they're building bikes here, and so to me, at my stage of life, it seems to work for me, and I like what they're doing, and I like them, and I think we all need to chop things up a bit and make changes every so often to keep things fresh, I think.
Does the arrangement, the agreement with Triumph, change how you have to talk about BMW, or are you still allowed to talk positively about BMW bikes, or is it always going to now be Triumph because you're an ambassador?
Definitely not. I'm kind of doing a bit of a deal, but just like BMW, I ride all sorts of bikes anyway, and I've got a fleet of bikes at home which I love, and they're all different things, from Kawasaki's to Betas to I've got some BMWs in there. I've got so I think Triumph, like BMW, said we'd love you to be on board with the adventure bike, with that market. It's a great market to be in. Those big adventure bikes are lovely bikes to travel around the world on, and well, again, any bike is a great bike to travel around the world on. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you look at Nick Sanders and on an R1, you've got. I mean, it doesn't matter who, what bike, but and they're all things bikes, I think is what it's all about. And I would never solely do something with one manufacturer. I just, Triumph don't make. I love enduro riding, and I've got a 350 Husqvarna 4-stroke that Triumph don't make, and so and that's my thing. Is I love enduro racing, and
we noticed you turned up on the Tiger 800 XCX, which interestingly won our People's Award for the best adventure bike. This autumn.
Really?
Yeah, voted for on Facebook, and in fact it's very similar to the one we rode around the Arctic 18 months ago when we did our last TV series. And how do you find riding that compared to riding years of? I know you've ridden lots of bikes, but how do you specifically find that compared to a big 1200 GS?
Well, I think. Well, I mean, you can't really compare them with the Toast. So you could compare it with the BMW with their bike, which is similar, and then the 900, isn't it? Yeah. 800. F800. I knew it. So the F800. And so it sort of fits into that category, and it fits really well, and I think again, these bikes nowadays are so similar that it's they all have their own sort of nuances, but they all do pretty similar.
They all do a great job, and
great job. Yeah.
And it becomes very hard when we're reviewing them on the show. How do you draw a line between them? Because actually, none of them are rubbish. None of them are poor. None of them are bad. They're all great. It's just how do you draw a line between them? It's difficult.
I think if you look at the Triumph, where they've come from, and in such a short period of time, you've got to toff your hat to them, really, because. To be completely British, to be privately owned, to having 3 massive factories in Thailand producing stuff for over here, they're assembling, manufacturing everything over here. I mean, if you go to their factory, if anybody gets a chance to go to their factory, go, because they are doing extraordinary stuff. So as opposed between one and another bike, it's very difficult to assess. I mean, I think the 800 is a really nice bike. And like all these kind of sort of adventure bikes and trail bikes and stuff like that around London are fantastic, because high handlebars, they go above most wing mirrors, and so commuting and getting through the traffic is very nice. I mean, on the bigger bikes, it's always, you know, when you're standing still and you buy a little Mini down beside you, you know, you just think, God, I hope I don't fall over on that because I'm just going to crush the Mini, you know. But yeah, no. So I'm so, you know, very excited about you know, spending a bit of time with Triumph, with you know, and having some fun with them over the next few years.
We had a question from Stephen Stalabras. And he says, when are you and Ewan going to be doing the long-anticipated Long Way Up project? With another question from Michael Jablonski, who also then said, bear in mind, Ewan is planning this trip on a Moto Guzzi Stelvio.
I'm not sure, but I don't know about. I don't know. I mean, I think Ewan and I have always spoken about a third one, but as when we were going to do it, we've never really kind of. So I always quite like the idea of when we're a little bit older and we could be sort of two grumpy men, you know, moaning about the world and traveling. It would be lovely to do South America.
Are you still really good friends?
Yeah, absolutely. And we, you know, we see. So Ewan lives in California now, and actually it's quite funny. Since he's moved to California, he spent a lot of time over here making movies during the summer and stuff. And he goes, right, Charlie, I'm over for the summer. Let's ride, and I'm going. I'm away working for the summer, so we keep missing each other all the time. But yeah, no, we see each other a lot, and you know, Ewan's affiliation with Moto Guzzi is he's a great passion for Moto Guzzi, and they're beautiful bikes. You know, they're just. You know, Ewan and I went and visited their factory on Long Way Down, and just. I mean, it's the most awesome place in the world, and I think they've just moved. I think, but they're keeping that factory is becoming a bit more of a kind of a it's a homage. It's a pilgrimage to go to. If there's any motorcycle factory that you know you need to travel to, it's your pilgrimage to the Moto Guzzi.
And actually, it makes a great trip because you can go to Ducati as well, and
yeah. And there's Lake Como. You come over the mountains to Lake Como, and then you know you're sitting in the summer. We started on having lunch once on Lake Como, this beautiful Italian restaurant, and you know we were on holiday there, and I think we were sinking our third bottle of rosé by the thing, and there's this big family on a table beside us outside, right on the lake, and I couldn't believe it. They paid the bill. They all got up and they walked across, and there was this beautiful Riva Akurama Special, the old Italian hand-built wooden boats, speedboats, and they all just piled onto that and just jetted off across Lake Como, and you just thought, oh,
they just do style so well. Okay, so you talk about you and come over here, and you've been busy in the summer. When we were talking to Billy Ward earlier this year, and he was talking about. And I think it's something a lot of people don't appreciate quite how busy you are and how much time you spend away from home. So, what does, if there is such a thing, as a typical year for Charlie look like with all the different things you do? I mean, you mentioned your trips and stuff, but what does a year look like for you?
I think I suppose a year for me. I mean, this year in March I'm off to Australia to do a motorcycle tour. We go from Melbourne to Sydney. Via
a riding tour, not a speaking tour. Yeah,
a riding tour and taking people, and we go through down into Tasmania and around and back up to Sydney. Amazing tour with Compass Expeditions, and that's so we do that in March. That's full, which is great. And then I'm doing a TV show called the Daring Gap, where I'm taking. I'm going to go through. There's where the Pan American Highway comes down, and I'm sure lots of your viewers will know this. Is Pan American Highway, and it stops, and then everyone pretty much takes a boat around, and then carries on. There was a guy. I saw a clip of a guy who changed his GS 1150 and made it into a boat, and then took him. What did he do? 500 miles or something, or some ridiculous on this.
It broke down. He got lost at sea.
Lost at sea. That's right.
He ended up getting guided back to shore by a pod of dolphins.
By a what?
By a pod of dolphins.
By pod of dolphins. So this guy does this anyway. So that's the place, right? And then so we're going to go through it. A guy called John Blatchford Snail did it back in 1973, and he took two Range Rovers when Land Rover first launched Range Rover. He took two Land Rovers through there.
So are you going to ride it or are you going to drive through it?
Both.
Oh, okay.
And so we're going. but no one's really done it, which is a bit of a worry, you know. And then you've got the far, you've got jungle, you've got swamp, you've got snakes, crocodiles, alligators, you've got bugs, you've got indigenous people, you've got, you know, I mean, you can imagine from Colombia up to North America, the people that go through that, you know, and there's, you know, so it's quite a dodgy place.
I'm trying to think back to, I know watching like the Globebusters tours and stuff that they fly over it, and but I could be wrong, but I'm sure when I watched Mondo Enduro, so Austin Vince, and this was 21 years ago now, I think they rode, I'm not sure whether they rode the whole thing. They didn't get a boat round or fly over any bit. I'm sure they were, but that was a long time ago.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, as far as I know, there's not very many people have done it,
So will you have security with you?
I think we're going to be sort of guided by what Panama and Colombia want us to do a little bit. I think all those things you've got to be super careful, because I'm not in it to die. You know, I just want to have a bit of fun and move on. You know, so we'll see. So we're in the planning for that, and then we go to South America to do another motorcycle tour with a whole bunch of people through Argentina, Chile, and Panama, that kind of sort of area. Which will be great fun, and then at the end of the year I'm doing a speaking tour around Britain. So I suppose on average I'm away sort of 6 months of the year.
It's a long time to be away from your family.
I mean, not all in one go, but yeah. So the worst was 8.5 months I was away, and it's a long time. And I've got children.
Your daughters are older teenagers now, or are they in the 20s yet?
One's just 20, and she's in university, and then the other one is in Verbier at the moment, and she's a chalet girl at the moment, so doing a ski season. So, hey Nick, how are you, mate? And so family and stuff, yeah. So it has had a massive toll on family life and stuff like that,
because there was always a comment, there was a line you said, but I think you were in Mongolia on the first series, about I love sex with my wife and I miss it.
I do. There's a lot of lonely nights, you know.
Yeah, because Tom dared me to ask, do you still miss it as much when you're away now?
Well, sex, always. Yeah, but luckily we now have 3G and the internet now.
Oh, fine. So, 3G sex.
Yeah. So it's not true that men can only do one thing at one time. I can watch TV and no. But I mean that part of it is thing, and at one stage I'd missed 11 of my younger daughter's birthdays in a row, and I missed loads of stuff at schools. I missed huge amounts of stuff I've missed over the years, and it's difficult because. And that's and it can be upsetting sometimes when people say negative things about you, and when you're all trying to do the same thing, and it's a very small family, that this adventure family, and you always I hope that I'm always trying to sort of promote it and promote everybody else who does it, and so it's always it's difficult, and some comments are from people who've never gone on an adventure themselves and just have an opinion, and that's fine, and people you write a book and then people have opinions about your book, but that's fine, and you can't expect everybody to like your stuff, so but I think a lot of it is about that I do take my job seriously, and there is a huge commitment there.
In fact, we had a question from Graham Field about ghostwriting books, because your books were ghostwritten? Yeah. So that was his question, are they ghostwritten, which I had a feeling they were. But how does that process work, and why did you choose to ghostwrite them?
Well, I mean, the sole reason for ghostwriting is because I'm completely dyslexic, and I really, really do struggle. I have the reading ability of a 12-year-old, and my spelling is almost non-existent, And whenever I write text or email now, it's all I just speak into the phone. So it's really, really complicated for me to be able to. And the way my brain works as a dyslexic, it's very difficult for me to make sense of things. And so the only way to get around it is, and I've learnt this over my whole life as being a dyslexic, because when you're in school as a dyslexic, everybody sort of fits into this little sort of round circle, and everybody fits into the peg, and they slip through school, and it's fine. And as a dyslexic person, you spend all your life not being able to fit into the peg, and you can't, and so you end up finding yourself, to a degree, you have to become quite entrepreneurial, and you have to delegate a lot, because you can't do it yourself. And I used to hate it when, before chip and pin, I used to hate it. You used to go into a supermarket or a hotel or whatever it was you were going to pay by check. I don't know if you remember those days. Probably half the people don't even know that. But and you would ask to spell Sainsbury's, and they go, well, it's Sainsbury's. And I go, yeah, but how do you spell it? And then they go, well, and you go, well, I'm dyslexic. I don't know how to spell it. And so it was really complicated. And so the only way that I could see that I could do it was by doing these. And that's partly why we ended up making a TV show, was because I didn't have the money to go on the adventure, and it was just going to be Ewan and I, and I had 2 kids, a mortgage. I was painting and decorating, doing people's houses up. I mean, I wasn't making any money really, and I was just staying alive, and so the idea then was that we got a bit of money to be able to do it, and then. And then we came up with this idea of that if we did really good, extensive video diaries every night, we could transcribe them, get someone to help us put it together. And that's kind of how it worked. And then we found a guy who really worked. And then we worked really hard on how we would do it. And because when 2 people are telling the same story, you've got to figure out how that's going to work in the book, and so we worked very heavily on that, and then we did all the video diaries, and then when we came back, we sat down and wrote it together, really.
So when you have the ghostwriting process, you have the writer with you, and you just tell
not on the trip.
No, but when you come back,
you sit down together,
and you tell the story.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Lots of emotions and feelings get missed about when you're doing those bits, so you have to sort of go back and sort of really think about it, and think really what was your emotions and hindsight and all that kind of stuff. So for me it just boils down to that's the only way I can do it.
There's a few other links, and it comes back to your thing about dyslexia between you and Tom and you and me. So Tom's got quite bad dyslexia. Hence all the spelling mistakes on all the things that we do. You've had cancer, I've had cancer.
Yeah.
So there's some odd links there. But so dyslexia and cancer, how have those? You talked a little about the dyslexia, but in general, how have they changed your outlook on life and how you tackle problems and approach life in general?
I think dyslexia is a gift. I think that it makes you see the world differently, and I think and I've always felt very privileged to have dyslexia, and lucky, and I think cancer is a real mind, and my sister Talsha died of cancer 20 years ago now, and she had ovarian cancer, and it was it was one of the awful ones, and it took a long time to go through the process, and it was horrendous, really, and she left this little 6-year-old daughter behind, and then Daphne, who's now 24 and married and wonderful, her father died of cancer as well. And so, it's been tough. And then to get it yourself and to know what the outcome can be is just horrible. And I was very lucky. I caught it very early. the doctor said, look, this is just an inconvenience, not a life change, so don't worry. And then had a little bit of chemo, and I remember having chemo, and he said to me, don't do anything, but I'd booked a track day the next day, and I thought, F it, I'm just going to go and do the track day. And he gave me all these pills to swallow, because you get feel very ill, and it's horrific. And so I was running around. It was a Ron Haslam race school day, and I was running around the track, green.
Yeah.
You know.
I was in my final year of university, and I had 8 months of chemotherapy, and it was just
horrendous.
The most horrific experience. Yeah.
But I remember going around the racetrack, and I came in, and Ron Haslam said to me, Charlie, you look awful. And he said, what's the matter? I said, I was swallowing these pills, and I said, I had a bit of chemo yesterday, and I didn't feel very well.
Unsurprisingly.
I thought I could get away with it, but anyway.
You didn't lose any hair from it, from the chemotherapy?
No, because I only had a few. I only had my chemo was more precautionary, so I had a couple of doses, and that was it. So I was really lucky, and then so I do a lot of work with Movember now, and do as much as I can with them. They're a great charity, and they do some, I think it's 160 million or so, or maybe even more, 200 million they've raised over the years. Pretty impressive, yeah, for men's health.
From Casey, I thought it was Casey Stoner, I thought, bloody hell. From Casey Soper, what was the last bike you bought with your own money?
Last bike I bought with my own money. Oh, it was many years ago. No, it was I bought a bike not that long ago, a W650, which I rode in Dirtquake this year, and I changed the exhaust I changed the exhaust and the tank and the seat and the electrics, took the airbox out, did a Race Fit did my exhausts, which are just awesome titanium exhaust. So that was the most bike I bought recently. And then I mentioned earlier that I've got a Husqvarna 350 4-stroke, which I just bought this not this year but last year now. So.
Okay. Have you ever been invited to take part in a reality show?
Take part in a reality show?
Yeah, like Big Brother or.
I did MasterChef, and I came, I came runner-up. Jodie Kidd and I came runner-up, and Sophie Thompson, Emma Thompson's sister, won it, and she was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
But I mean more like a Big Brother or I'm a Celebrity, get me out. Have you never been invited?
I've been invited a number of times, but no. My children say I have anger management issues, and I keep telling them it's just because of them that my anger management issues, but no, I haven't done it.
Of all the places you've been to, what's your favourite trip or destination?
Trip or destination? I suppose out of all the trips I've ever done, I think I'm one of the most proud of, I think, is the Dakar Rally, or Race to Dakar was the one I was most proud of. I think, and that would be equal with Long Way Round, because that was the first one. And we just had no idea what we were doing the whole way around. Each day was like, we used to just lie in the tent, wake up in the morning and just look at each other and go, what the is going to happen now? We just had no idea, because every day was like, because you leave those ones and think, will anything happen? And you think, shit, I just don't know. And then, but every day something, extraordinary happens.
And even on the 2-week trips that Tom and I have done and filmed, because that's all. And we worry about making sure there's enough to film, particularly if you're filming it for a documentary, which we've done. And stuff always happens. And that's it. It always happens.
And you're obliged, if you do decide to make a TV thing out of it, then you're obliged to film. And as you say, that does change things and makes things different. It doesn't make it any less of an adventure. It's
for me, it enhances it for me. But that's a personal thing.
That's what like you like to do. That's what you like to do, and what I like to do. I like to make TV. So I love coming up with the ideas. I love finding somebody to one of the TV stations to make it with me, to raise the money, to get the sponsors, to plan the route, to execute it, And then, there's all this work that goes on afterwards, and the editing is, as you guys know, it takes longer to do the edit than it does to do the TV show, and it's really, really hard work, and I love all of that, so.
What's your bucket list destination? Where have you not been to that you want to go to?
Central and South America next. I've not really spent any time down there.
Yeah, okay. You've actually answered this question already. Did you use any more than 3 GSs on the long way round? No, you answered that question earlier. Do you like Nick Saunders?
Nick does all his, Nick and Kevin and Julia and the Mundo Enduro boys and everything. They all do fabulous stuff, and everybody's doing, real individual stuff, and they all do their own things. And I hope that we all should be and do look after each other, and we're in the same boat, and so yeah. If he doesn't like the book, then he doesn't like the book. It's a shame, but it became a bestseller and around the world, and sold a lot of books. I'm very grateful for, but that's fine. And as I said before, not everybody will like what you do. I mean, but I hope, and I think that we all help and promote each other, and I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame. The angle that he's taken, but I like it.
Yeah, as you said, we are all part of actually a small but wonderful little part of the world and a small but wonderful little industry, and we all do the things we do because we love it, and actually we should all help each other and share the love.
There is no wrong way to do anything, and if people sit there and put pressure on the public about what is the right and the wrong way to do something, well then they're wrong, really, because there is no right and wrong way, and you have to go out and make your own mistakes in when you do adventure, and I remember when you and I, when we did our first trip, and we had all this gear, and we had 2 sets of tools, we had 2 sets of this, 2 sets of that, and I remember one guy came, I can't remember who he was, and I can't remember now, and he came up and he looked and he just said, well, you're taking all that? And he goes, yeah, that's the minimum. And he went, oh, okay. Do you need 2 sets of tools? And we go, yeah. What happens if we get split up? And he goes, well, how long are you going to be split up for? It's just, And then when we did the Road of Bones, we then realized, we had a good look at our panniers, and then just had a look at the bottom of the panniers, and there was all this crap at the bottom of the panniers that we never used. And so all of that was just hoiked out of the things. So right, we don't need that anymore. But I think it's I love what all of those guys do, and it's just a shame. I really do like all of those guys, and we all of us are doing the same thing, and in everything that I do, I try very hard to make sure that we promote adventure, and it's important,
Our panniers have a double thick rim at the base, keeping damage from the inevitable bumps, scrapes, and offs to the outside of the pannier. Metal Mule, engineered to be different.